Hello and welcome back. So today we continue working on our quiz app. So I left off saying that we do not want to leave this value here. We want to, as much as possible, give all the work to this quiz controller because that's its job. And more also, this quiz page doesn't really need to know about this value. That is the whole concept of this object-oriented programmer. You try to modularize your code as much as possible so that if anything is going wrong, you can really tell where the problem is coming from. You don't want to leave everything in this page. It's going to be huge. So imagine we had all these questions like I did earlier inside here plus this code. It wouldn't be a nice experience. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this value and I'm going to dump this inside here. Okay, just like this. I'm going to save this, and then when I come back here, we are going to have this problem. Now, how do we fix this? So if you understood what we did with this QC and how we're able to access the question, then you can obviously say that then I can also use QC and then dot to access the question number, and that will still work. But then you see, how are we going to go ahead and increment it? Okay, I can't just copy this and then send it there and then do the incremental. So this is where we are going to make some quality of life changes, and also it's just a lot of work doing this. So there are better ways of handling this, and we're going to look at that. Now, if I go back to the quiz controller, okay, remember what I said about classes? They basically tell you what the object from that class should be able to do. So a class would always have what we call class variables or member variables, and then after the class should have some properties, or so not properties but some functions or actions. So what can the class do? So for example, if we take a car can be read, a car can have a model name, a date of manufacturing and things like that. Those would be the properties of the class. Okay, but what can a car do? The car can drive, a car can honk. What else can a car do? I don't know. Let's say it's a flying car, the car can fly. So that's what the car can do. Those will be the functionalities of the class. So we need to provide the functionalities of this class. What can this class do? Well, first things first, we have to create a functionality that this class will be able to get us the questions, because we don't want to go ahead and then do what I was telling you earlier. Now, if you're coming from other languages, you'll be thinking about getters and setters. Yeah, it's the same thing, but that does it in a neat way. So we would say string, because we are getting a question, the questions are strings, and then we'll use the keyword called get. Okay, and then what do we want to get? Now I'm going to give this a name, and the convention is, since we are getting a question, it's always nice to say do something like get and then addition to the name. So I'll call this get question. It could be anything, but this is just a convention. And then I'm going to use a fat arrow, which simply prevents me from doing this and then having to write return. Okay, so I'm going to just do this. So anytime I say fat arrow, think about this. And I'm going to get the questions. So in actual sense, since these are a list of questions, so let me make this questions. That will make more sense. And so questions, and actually let me see if I need to correct anything. So we will be changing this so I can ignore that for the meantime. So I would say questions, and then in the square bracket I can now get that question number that is here, this guy. Okay, I can access that, and then outside I can now get the question. Okay, this is basically how we are going to retrieve the question. So now if I need the question, I simply have to call this. That's all. I don't have to go ahead and type this entire thing like I would be doing earlier as I demonstrated. And also with the same idea, that means if I needed the answer, then this has to be a bool because the answers are true or false. Then you already know the name. This is going to be what? Get answer, but I'll make this get correct answer. Like I said, it could be anything, but we just like to add the get there so that we know we are getting something. And then if you are setting, so setting allows you to change a value, so you can set something, okay, but we don't need the user to be able to, we don't need us to set anything here. I mean, I don't want to change this value myself, okay. So, and then what we will do here is we still want to get the questions, we still need a question number, but over here is the answer that we need, okay. Is the answer that we need here. Quite simple, right? So if I go back here, we can get rid of this, and now what I can do is I can call QC again, dot, and then you see sorry dot, and then I can get the get question, or I can get the correct answer. But you notice how we are getting the question number and the questions. I'll explain why this is bad, but we can get the question right here. Now if I save this, nothing would happen, because then how then do we increment this so that I can demonstrate it to you? Okay, I wouldn't be able to do that here because this question number doesn't exist here anymore. So how do I get to the next question? Well, it's simple. So note that does this work? So this doesn't work because we are not able to move forward. So let me come back here. I wanted to demonstrate an error, but I can still do it after this. We can create another functionality to help us move to the next question. And this is going to be very simple. All we need to do is to write a function that increments this, okay, the question number. So since this question number is not going to return anything, we are going to say void. It's not bringing back anything. I can call this next question, okay, and then I can simply do this, and then we can just say question number plus plus, just like this. And then now I can go back to this and then just call the question, sorry, QC dot, and then access the next question, okay, right here, and I can save this now. Okay, so if everything is right, if I click on this, it should go to the next question, okay, because essentially what we are doing is the same increments, but we've just put it under a function that this class controls, and we have an object of that class. Okay, so here's what I mean by we can demonstrate the error. Now if I keep going, I don't remember how many questions we have here. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 15, I think so. So I have 15 questions. Now if I keep going, okay, if I keep going, I don't remember the last question. So what's the last question here, so that we know where we are? So Olivia Newton-John, that's the last question. So when I get to this question and I click on true again, we're going to get an error, okay, and it says range error, index invalid, value not in, blah blah blah. So basically the problem here is each time I tap on the value, the true, to increment this, we increment this question number, where is it, by 1, okay. So it starts at 0, which is at this question. We increment it by 1, we go to this next question. We increment it by 1, we go to this next question, so on and so forth. So we get to the last question, and then when I tap on it, it still goes to the 16th question, but we have only 15 questions. So where is that 16th question coming from? And that is why we are getting this error. I think this is also termed as index out of bounds in some languages, okay. So the list has 15 questions and we have gone beyond the 15, so where are we getting the remainder? You can't get more than the list has. Okay, that is why we are getting that error. So in order to fix it, we need to check whether we have reached the full length of our questions before we increment. Okay, and we are going to do that quite easily. So I'm going to cut this, and then we are going to use an if statement, and then we simply have to check if our question number, okay, is less than our questions, so the list dot length. Okay, if it's less than the length, then we want to go ahead and do what? Do that increment. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and actually I have to reload this so that, come on. Alright, so if I hit play now, everything is back, it's working, but watch what happens now. So I'm going to keep going. We know Olivia Newton is the last one, so this is the last question, right? If I click on this, we still get the error. Okay, so why are we still getting the error even though we have checked for the length, if the length is less than that? Well, the thing is, because the computer counts from 0, you understand that it counts from 0, so technically it starts at 0 and then all the way, but we are incrementing this by 1, so this entire list, even though they are 15, technically they are 14. Okay, because if this is 0, 1, 2, so you get the idea, but we counted this as 1, 2, 3. So that is the issue. So all we have to do to fix that problem is to subtract 1 from this. Okay, hope that's not so confusing. So if we save this now, and then let's reload this from scratch, let's play now, and let's hit true. Let's get to Olivia Newton again. You notice now, I don't know if you can, yeah, you can see the splash. I'm clicking it, but nothing is happening because we've hit the check, so it isn't going to increment this anymore, and that is exactly what we are hoping to do. Okay, make sense? I believe so, right? It's quite simple. Okay, now the next thing we want to do here is, so before we go ahead and look at the next thing we want to do, remember when I was trying to access something like the question, the next question and things like that, I showed you that, so if I say dot here, I actually have access to the question number, which means I can actually do something like this. You see that I am accessing the question number, and I'm actually changing the value of that question number, and this is going to cause us to crash horrendously because you already saw that we don't even have 25 questions, and I'm accessing this question number here and setting it to 25 instead of 0. Now technically this isn't going to affect the user because the user is not going to get hold of your code and do this, but you, the developer creating your program, you need to put in certain measures that prevent you from making some of these mistakes maybe in the future. So that is why these concepts are quite important. Now one other feature, so I never even talked about the principles of object-oriented programming, and the reason is that I said I'll use a different video to discuss that. So basically when we talk about OOP, we have 4 main principles. So the first one is inheritance, and that is what you see happening here, this extends. So this quiz page class is, or this quiz page is extending, so it's inheriting certain things from the stateful widgets. Again, I'm not really explaining, but that's just one. We have polymorphism, which I wouldn't get to demonstrate here, but basically allows one function to be used multiple times, if I can simplify it that way. And we have we have encapsulation, and encapsulation is basically what we are going to implement next, which only exposes certain parts of the code to the user. Okay, we want the object to only expose certain information. Okay, we don't want everything. So for example, the question number, we don't want it exposed. And then I believe the last one is abstraction. Now abstraction basically seeks to hide complex or complexity of your code just to make it look very simple. Okay, so imagine this entire thing in here and all of that. So that's basically some form of abstraction. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there because that's not the essence of this. I'm not here to bombard you with those things. We are just trying to build something. Okay, but it's essential you understand the concept, which I'll talk about. Enough of that. So we are going to look at encapsulation. And basically encapsulation in other languages, would you hear of private and public, and I've forgotten the last one, something like that. If you're from Java, it's a bit similar here, just that we don't use the access modifiers, as that's the name I was looking for. We don't use those access modifiers like that in Dart. So basically, if I want to make something private, so we are making a property private, we are simply saying that that property belongs to the class that it has been created in. So for example, if I go ahead and put an underscore here, this is how that treats private, or this is how we tell that you know what, this property here is a private property. Okay, in a language like Java, you just need to pass in the keyword property private, but as you can see, private doesn't work here. So in that, we say this is a private variable. That's how we tell it. And what that simply means is that only and only this class can have access to this value. That is just the meaning of that. Okay, let me go ahead and fix these problems. So because I have changed that, okay, and in fact, I'm going to make this questions to private, because this quiz page has no business knowing anything about those questions. You understand? It doesn't need to know about the questions that are here. So does it not need to know this? So I just need to fix these simply because I use the underscores. So I have to go ahead and put in the underscores, and I should have used the refactor feature, but that's just simple enough to fix. And I'm going to just grab this, so questions, put in the underscore, and then put in the underscore here, and then I believe that's the last one. Then now when I come here, let's look at where the issue is coming from. So I can get rid of this. So now let's see how I can access. So if I say qc dot, notice how I don't get the questions anymore, and that question variable I was able to do a change the value. I don't get this anymore because this is now private. It's private to this class. Only this class can access it. Okay, it's no more public to everybody. So here in Ghana, where I am from, because we have, I don't know about other places, but we have private schools and we have the government schools, okay, or public schools as we call them. So using that analogy, not everybody can really afford to go to a private school, so it's special to private. You get the idea. So not everybody goes, but public, yeah, everybody can just get up and go because it's public, everybody. So in the same idea, when something is public in a different class and every other class, so like quiz class, all of these could access that value, and potentially you could make a mistake and change it. But when we make it private to that class, then only this class can make changes to these things. That is just the idea. So this is where we use the getters and setters to access those values, because of course this quiz page needs to be able to access or move to the next question. But how does it do that if it doesn't have access to those things? That is where these gets and setters, we are not using a set here, but these getters come into play. So all we need to do is call these functions. Now these functions are supposed to be public so that the class can get access to them, but the properties shouldn't be. That is the concept. Enough of that, let's move on. I'll spend time dealing with that, not in this video. So just follow along. If you're getting confused, a video I'll create later would simplify that for you. So now we can get the questions using this. We can get the next question also using this. So now, or if I need a next question, I have to use the next question method. Okay, and then save this. And now if I click on this, you notice we are still moving to the next question because we are calling the next question, which is here, and this next question goes into check and then grabs this property and then adds one to it, and we are able to grab that property because it belongs to this class even though it's private. Make sense? I believe so. Okay, quite simple. So then how do we go ahead and then work on the figuring out what is the correct answer, what is the wrong answer, and things like that? Alright, so this is how we are going to work on checking whether the answer is true or false, and then we can go ahead and also work on this guy right here. So this is going to, I'm going to do it a shabby way first so that you can understand my thought process, and then we look at how we can properly handle this. So this is for the true button, so I'm going to just do this for the true button. I'll not repeat that for the false because I'll eventually change it. So what we would have to do is we need to create a new variable of a boolean type, and this is going to be the user answer. Okay, now why we are doing this is that this button is for the true. Okay, so if the user should click on true, then the user is selecting true. Simple as that. So this is going to call true. Now what we would do is we would check if the user answer is the same as our quiz controller dot get correct answer. Okay, that is why we created that. And remember the get correct answer, if we can get to it. So get correct answer goes into our questions list at the index, so the specific question we are at, and then gets us the answer. So we are at friends something something. So here we are on this question. So what is the answer there? It's true, right? So this guy, as it stands, this get correct answer returns us the boolean of what? True. So meaning that if the user should tap on this, the user is saying this question is true. So we are comparing that the user's true, is it the same as the quiz controller's correct answer as true? If that is the case, then just for the sake of testing it out, we can print true, and then we are not going to do this as the right way, but just for you to see, meaning that if it is false, then we can go ahead and then print out this as false. Okay, something like this. Now I can go ahead and save this, and then let's test this out. So let me get out the terminal, and then now if I hit this, it does say it's true because we saw that that question was true. Now if you are born between May 1st and 20th, then you are a Gemini. Now I'm not sure, maybe I think it's false. So let's look at that question. What does it say? If you are born between that, it's false. But for now we've rigged this logic for only the true. So if I say it's true, it should tell us it's false, right? Because it's false. That's not the right answer. You get the idea. But then again, imagine I have to go and then type this entire thing for this button again. Wouldn't make sense. So this is where a function comes in. I mean, like things like this start screaming like, put me in a function. Okay, so we are going to create a function that is going to do this, or give us this functionality. Okay, so I'm going to go to the top. Where am I? I'm going to go to this place right here, and this function is not going to return anything, so I'll say void, and I'm going to call this check answer. I hope that's how you spell that. So check answer. Man, I'm craving for a coffee. Anyway, and this is going to be the user answer. User answer, just like so. So this function requires the user answer. So that is the true or false that I was talking about. And of course, this needs to have the set state in there so that we can rebuild the UI whenever we get the right answer or something like that. Okay, and it's going to be the same logic that I talked about earlier. So actually, I probably don't even need a set state inside here, but I'll leave it as it is, and then probably I can just grab this. In fact, let me grab everything here for now, cut this and actually get rid of this, and then I can dump this in here and make modifications to it. So let's format that. That's Shift Alt F would format that, and I don't need it to do this. Oops, I think I took out, yeah. So if the user answer is the same as this, what do we want to do? Okay, so this is where we probably want to show that the user answered it correctly or the user answered it wrongly. Okay, so the way we are now going to fix this, I totally even forgot about that, is this right here. Okay, this row here. This row takes a list of icons. So what I can do is I can go to the top of this, and then I'll create a list, and this list is going to be of type icons, you guessed it. And then I'm going to call this God, give me a name, score tracker or something, or I don't know. And this, for now, I'm going to set it to an empty list, just like this. Then I can come down to where we have these, and you see this is a list, and because what I've created is just a list, I can actually get rid of this entire part, and the children here expect a list, and I have a list called what? Score tracker. So I can actually do something like this, and let me save this, and then you see it's gone. Now what I want to do is that if the username, sorry, the user answer and the correct answer we get is the right thing, then we want to call our score tracker, and because it's a list, we have the add method, and this add method allows you to add something to the list. Okay, so the idea is when the user hits true and we check and it's actually true, so when this is true, we want to add this, the true icon we had earlier, and I hope I still remember the name of that. So because it's a list of icons, I cannot add anything like 20. It's not going to be happy about that. So you see the argument int can be assigned to the parameter of type icon, because I said this list can only contain icons. So here has to be icon like we did earlier. So we want to add icon, and then we know this works, icons dot, not comma, god, icons dot what was it, check circle, and then we gave it some color, right? So we had the color to be colors dot the selected color, so the color was our app colors dot selected color, I believe. So I think a comma is needed here, and also I think just to format this properly, something like so. Okay, so that's for the first part. So if this condition is met, if the answer is actually true, then we want to go ahead and do what? Add this. So what if the answer is false? Okay, in that case we can have the else part of this. If it is false, then what do we want to do? Then we want to go ahead and actually add this. I hope I copied the right thing. Let me undo that and actually see what I have missed. Okay, so I needed to grab this. And then this should be close. I almost forgot the name, so this should be close and this should be colors.red. Colors.red, just like this, and then we save this also. So we can probably test this out to see if it works or is going to get broken along the way. So I have to call this function somewhere because it wouldn't just work. So I can go back to what do you call it, this come on, yes, I can come back here to unpressed, and I can actually get rid of this and then say that when the user taps on that button, then we can simply do what? Call in the check what do you call it, check answer. And actually I believe I need the set states because we would have to trigger a rebuild. So let me bring it back, and then all I have to do now is call check answer, and since this is for the true button, we are going to put in true, just like this. Oops, not as a string, this is a boolean value, just like that. And then we can do the same thing for this now. See how this is much simpler? So for the false button, we can also put in the check answer again. So in case the user says the answer there is false, then we pick false for the user and then we check. So let's actually save this and let's try this. So I think the answer for this is true, so you can see we get the true. Okay, but you do realize something is happening. We are not advancing. Okay, we are not advancing in our question, and that's because I did forget to add that to what do you call it, our function, because when we do click, we need to be able to move on to the next question. Okay, so that is what we just need to fix right now, and that's actually quite simple. We can put that at the end of our function. So this should be the function, right? Check answer. Let me just figure out. This is our check answer. This is the set state. Right, so that should be here, I believe. So in the set state, we just need to call our QC dot get was it get question or next question? I don't remember what I called it. But let's save this and actually let's refresh this from the beginning. So now let's test this and see. So the Big Apple nickname, I really don't know the answer to this, so let me hit true. So that means the answer there, so we can go back here and we can check it. So you can see the answer there was false, but I hit true, so which means I got it wrong. Okay, and then I can try again and hit true, and then you can see that question is also false. So where our question is not moving, so we have to fix this. So my mistake I made here was I needed to call next question and not get question. Okay, that was just my mistake. Okay, so let's start afresh. and then let's try that. So now the questions are progressing. So peanuts are not nuts, so true. So we do get that. So we know this is false. This is a false. This was true, 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 false, true, true, false, definitely. True, true, false. Olivia Newton. I think this was false, right? It's okay, I got it wrong. So this is the end of the question, as you can see. But notice this, if I click, it's still adding. You see that? It is still adding, which is not supposed to happen because we've got to the end of the question. And so obviously it's going to break, but we need to figure out a way of actually ending our quiz, okay, because that was the last question and we have to end this quiz. And if we continue tapping, it's going to keep adding, as you can see, and then we are going to have that error. So I might actually leave this as a challenge for you guys, but maybe in the next video I would quickly end this. I don't want this to get too long. So thank you for watching, guys. If you really enjoyed this tutorial, please leave a like, and if you are not already subscribed to the channel, please do, and then share. I'll see you in the next tutorial.